Well, all right, Gable, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I am super pumped to have you on here because ever since the pandemic, I had a friend send me a link to your live show, and he was like, "You got to check this out." And so I was like, "Okay." And I checked it out, and I was like, "Wow!" I sat down and I watched the whole thing, which I was not planning. I was in the
That's
middle of
awesome.
something, and I like couldn't shut it off. So I've been a huge fan of you guys for like the past year, but my listeners might have no idea who you are. So can you just introduce yourself a little bit, like who you are, what you do, what life's been like for you recently?
Yeah. Okay, so you cut out for a second. So you said who you are, what you do, and what was the last thing you said?
What you been up to recently?
I feel so bad. It cut out again. What'd you say?
Who you are, what you do, and what you've been up to recently.
Oh, I'm just kidding. Okay, no, my name is Gable. My name is Gable Price. I have a band called Gable Price and Friends. I live in Redding, California, which is basically if California was in Oregon. Um, and yeah, I know I operate this band from here. All my guys live here. Yeah, it's super cool. I am the lead singer of that band. We write all our songs together. And yeah, what we've been up to recently is we've just been, learning how to operate a band during a pandemic, as well as, figuring out what it looks like afterwards without putting too much
Mm,
skin in the never ending postponed tour game.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, honestly, like it's obvious, I'm a pretty big fan of you guys. You guys are regularly now blasting through my speakers every morning or on
Uh,
my commute to work or whatever. Like I am a huge fan, and a lot of the people that I know personally who are into music and Jesus are like, "Oh man, you guys are solid." So I just want to keep encouraging you to keep doing what you're doing. But I want to ask you this because and the reason why I couldn't shut off that concert is because it felt like, and I don't know, it's always awkward to label someone this because you never know. Like I know, like King's Kaleidoscope, I would label them as a worship band, even though I know that they wouldn't label themselves as a worship band.
yeah,
But for
yeah.
me, when I was listening to your music, it was like the lyrics are obviously very worshipful,
Mm.
but it was like this is worship music because usually I just full disclosure, worship music isn't like my jam, but I've been really involved in worship teams. But it's just like you get to a point where it's like, oh, it just feels like musically it's hard.
Yeah,
But it
totally.
felt like watching that concert, it was like, man, this is not only music that's really good, but this is like worship music that I feel like I can like get into and really worship to. And the lyrics are amazing. And so I wanted to ask you, for you yourself in the band, like what's motivated you to write music that's honestly like really good, but then lyrically, like it's so like they are, whether or not you would label them worship songs, they are worshiping to God. So
Mm.
what motivated you to like combine those two and write songs like this?
Um, yeah, I think that a lot of what we do was motivated by the fact that I never really could write worship music that much. Like I tried to a lot when I was growing up, and I just never clicked with it. I had never finished a worship
Mm.
song, and so I just fell in love with a bunch of different music. I think what motivated us to write something that sounds so different is the fact that, like you said, you play on worship teams, and when you've done it for a while, when you play in your free time and you're like, I just want to play something that brings me joy, you don't necessarily play like the lead line to Oceans or something like that.
Yeah.
I think for us, since there's five guys in our band, it's five different musical tastes that the band
Mm.
is like, that our sound is going through. So if I bring a song and have an idea of like, oh man, this is going to sound like this band, then when the guitarists get in there, they bring their flavor to it, which is motivated by a different inspiration, and a
Mm.
drummer that's a different inspiration. So I think if we if I had been the only member at the beginning, our sound would probably be different, just because it
Mm.
would be running through such a collaborative creative process.
Yeah.
um so I think that's mostly what motivated us. We weren't motivated to write something that was different for the sake of being different. We were writing something that was motivated by, we want to make the music we want to make,
Mm.
and each of us want to make, not like we're all serving my vision.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be that, and sometimes it can be, we want to serve the vision of our manager, or we want to serve the vision that one of our guys has. But a lot of times it's just like, hey, let's just do what we do.
Mm.
And the we is composed of five people. So but yeah, man, I'd say that's what motivated us. And in terms of like the worship label, like I don't push it away
Mm.
at all. Like I know a lot of people are like, oh, we're not a worship band, like with their, or I'm not a worship leader. I think that I think for a while with the band, I was like, I don't want to be fully labeled as that. What we always tell people, and if someone is wanting to do a partnership with the band, whether it be like because we're still independent, but in the past when we've talked to labels and stuff like that, usually the first thing I'll tell people is, before you offer us anything, I do want to tell you that we're not a worship band that found an electric guitar player.
Mm.
We're a rock and roll band that sings about the things that we care about. And a
Mm.
lot of times that's going to be the fact that we're all Christians and devoted followers of the Lord. And sometimes it might not be that. And
Mhm.
we've seen that a little bit more so recently with our band, with Fractioned Heart, of just like some of the songs were not necessarily just like, they weren't all "You Are Holy and I'm Underdressed." They were,
Yeah.
5 minutes till I have to get out of bed, and it's going to be a long time before I'm back out of social anxiety land.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where like I've never once pushed away the worship label. I just acknowledge that when you do the things that you love and you're connected to the Lord, it's going to be worship regardless if it says its name or not. My
Mhm.
basketball coach used to he got really mad at us once because there was a guy on our basketball team that was like, we were praying out after losing a game. He's like, God, I'm sorry we didn't honor you and worship you by winning. And my coach came into practice the next day and he was so mad. He was like,
Mm.
this has been bothering me all weekend. He's like, when you do the thing that you're made to do and the thing that is, just you fully alive, you are worshiping God. And if
Mm.
you're doing what he's like, when you get married and you have sex with your wife, you're going to be worshiping God. And we were all in high school and we were like, no, so that stuck with me. So when I approach Gable Price and Friends, I don't approach it through the very strict lens of what a lot of times people think worship is
Mm.
and expects us to do. There's a lot of people who have are fans or followers of the band with great intentions who want to be like, I thought you were a worship band,
Mm.
but this isn't singing directly about God, and I usually send back the Saint Irenaeus quote that's the glory of God is man fully alive. And I
Mm.
say, we're not a worship band that found a guitar player. We're a rock and roll band that sings about the things we care about, and we all care about worship.
Mhm. And I think that's why your music resonates with me, is that I think that honesty of just singing about what you're passionate about, and obviously as a Christian, that connects a lot to Jesus and God, that it's something that just connects and resonates with people, where it's like, yeah, like, is this song specifically like oh Lord, you're so holy and whatever? No, but it is worship in the sense that everything we do is worship.
Yeah.
And it resonates in that way. And a song that resonated with me, the first song that I watched during that live thing that hooked me, was the song Heretic, because it just like threw me through a loop where I was like, what is he singing? Like, because lyrically I was like, this is, and musically it was like, this does not match what I was expecting. And
Yeah.
lyrically, these lyrics are crazy. One of my favorite lines from there is the line, you're the contrast that offends my firm theology. We tried to figure ways in the boxes humans made. So either you're a heretic or you're the son of God. Oh man, there's so many lines in there that are just amazing. And so I want to ask you, what inspired that song, and specifically those lyrics and ideas out of you guys?
Honestly, man, I think that mostly rage, probably, um, or just being annoyed. I think a lot of our songs, I think I just get really annoyed with very
Mm.
strict. I call them the Bible college superstars.
Yeah.
Is what, oh my God, drives me crazy, man. Where it's just like, well, I love scholars and I love that people study the Bible, but I think a lot of times people just grow so pretentious in it that they don't
Mm.
want to understand. Where
Mm.
it's not based on the concept that they're, you know, canceling or pushing away speakers. It's based on the one word that, like, of saying like, it could be like, God does this, or like when we do this, they're like, so you're saying we do this? I'm pretty sure God does this. And I'm just like, you suck. And no one wants to hang out with you.
Yeah.
But no, I think that song, it was just based off of the big movement of just exposing teachers. That's just like, and I'm not opposed to if someone's a blatant heretic to just be like, hey, this is kind of wacky. But it was like, someone sneezes and they're labeled a heretic, or everyone with a church over 1,000 like attendees are like, oh, they're, you know, wolves in sheep's clothing. So I think that I wrote that song of like, as soon as something breaks out of this clean cookie cutter box that we've placed God in, every time it's outside of that, it's heretical. And it's like, because I don't understand it, it must mean that it's not God. And basically what that means is you've built a God in your own image. So it's like, wow, God is great and big and he looks just like you. And so it's like one of those things that just is just so annoying that I just wrote that song. I was in the shower in Denver, Colorado, at my uncle's house, and we were staying there. And I think that I had seen a post probably about someone I really cared about. And they were just like saying this. I was like, there's no desire to understand or even openness to maybe God moves in a different way than you've seen him move before.
Yeah.
And so I just wrote the song. I was like, you know, you're the contrast. You are constantly through scripture, God shows himself in a contrasting way of the God of, you know, huge and the God of close, you know, kind of thing, where, you know, he, you know, calms the seas, but at the same time he takes the nap, you know, kind of thing. It's just one of those things where I think that I wrote that song because, you know, the same lyric that's in the second verse, you know, if you walked into my home and you made your glory known, would my tears soak your feet or would I crucify you? And I genuinely don't know. I genuinely don't know what my reaction would be. I hope it'd be good, but chances are, in a lot of times, and how I've reacted to things that I don't immediately understand, I probably would be one of the first stones to throw. And so a lot of it was an internal reaction as well as a society reaction, where I was just like, this is how society reacts. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm annoyed by it because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's that lyric.
My feet, the contrast that offends my firm theology. We try to fit your ways in the boxes humans made, so either you're a heretic or you're the son of God. You are the relapse of quiet streams and greener paths, the footnotes of ancient words our language lacks. We can scribble out the notes in the books that your friends wrote, cause either everyone's a heretic or they've heard the voice of God. Oh, offend my mind so that I can know you more. offend my mind, offend my mind. You are the contrast, the tender word in the stomach leak, the constant. Would you offend my Greek mythology? Capitalize the G in the name of he who bleeds. You really resurrect me. Oh, tell me directly. Am I just a modern Pharisee? Do my thoughts scream? A renewed mind or just words I speak? And if you walk into my home and you make your glory known, would my tears soak your feet? Or would I crucify you? Oh, offend my mind so that I can know you more, and break my heart so it looks more like yours. Offend my mind so that I can know you more. Offend my mind. Oh, offend my mind so that I can know you more, and break my heart so it looks more like yours. Offend my mind so that I can know you more. Offend my mind. Prophet and the priest crucify my disbelief. The divine reminds me of the hope inside me. Ooh, counter of the stars, resurrect my broken heart. The contrast soothes my mind. You're the earth that I reside in. I break the rules, you break the silence. See the power in your eyes. You're glorious, I'm terrified. Grain of sand upon an island. Real estate inside your eyelids. I'm a tooth inside a smile. I'm a soul you reconcile. Would you offend my mind? Offend my mind. Offend my mind. Offend my mind. Would you offend my mind? Offend my mind so that I can know you more, and break my heart so it looks more like yours. Offend my mind so that I can know you more. Offend my mind. Oh, offend my mind so that I can know you more, and break my heart so it looks more like yours. Offend my mind so that I can know you more. Offend my mind, offend my mind.
And now this is other song that I think is, I turn it on and everyone's like, yeah, this is a jam. I love this song. And the song Awestruck Revival.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that song. And I love the bridge, especially. It's just funny because one of the things that I've developed and been okay with now is I grew up very boxy, and I had the gift of tongues, but so people are gonna look at this and maybe think I'm whack. But I had the gift of tongues, and I repressed it because I thought there's no way, it's just made up in my head. It's just nonsense. And eventually, I've learned to embrace it. And so I love the bridge. That I've been dreaming of falling asleep while I'm speaking in tongues to a progressive beat. I can't wait for the promised land, standing on a beach with my friends and my foes in the sand in my feet. Man, that thing, it's just like, dude, you are a poet. It is incredible. So for that song specifically, I just wanted to ask, like, what to you, as you guys wrote that song, what is Awestruck Revival? Like, what are you guys talking about? What is the thing that you're longing for? What is that bridge even about for you guys?
So the whole thing of Awestruck Revival was, I wrote that song when I was 17, a big part of it. Yeah, a big part of that song I started when I was 17. And it was a completely different song. Yeah, it was a completely different song then. It was my first existential crisis. And it was, but it was my first time out of an existential crisis. And I was feeling the fire of, the joy of being not just, having like this middle ground of, I'm not super sad and I'm not super happy, like this depressive state. It was the first high I'd felt. And I was like, the original lyric was Awestruck revival is my youthful heart's fray, my soul is on fire and I doubt it will stay. And it was just more of a very downer. And I think the bridge was like, I'm dreaming of falling asleep. I can't remember what it was, but I remember I wrote that in like a take. I was like, I'm just going to sing something here and see if it works. I hadn't even thought of it. And I was just like, speaking in tongues. No, it wasn't even speaking in tongues back then. I don't remember what it was. I didn't know about that yet. I was 17. But no, I had a pretty dense, it wasn't horrible. I didn't blow up my life or anything, but I just had a hard summer. A few years back, I think it was summer 2019, of just my first adult existential crisis of just like, actually, it probably wasn't my first one. I think I have them somewhat often. I don't want to have them that much, but I had one. Let's just say that. And I was coming back from my last year of ministry school, which is an internship. You apply for mentors and you get accepted by one or you don't, kind of thing. And I got accepted by one, and his name's Jordan DeMarco. It's how I got connected to Christine and stuff like that for You Are My Country. We all became really good friends after the internship. It was awesome. But I came back and we had played a show in Sacramento with our friends Mirrors, which is a great band if you haven't heard of them. It's spelled very European. So it's spelled Mirous. Yeah, we played that show, and dude, it was like, they did great. They were super nice. The setup was great, but our show sucked. Like, I hated it because we opened with Dead Man, which was our only fast song, and it was halftime. And it's still not like a mover, like super moving. And then we ended with Magnetic Love, and that was our second fastest song. And now we're like, if we're playing a like a rager show, we're not going to play Magnetic Love because it's so slow. So it's like, those were our hype songs. And we're like, dude, I'm so bored. So we're like, let's write a fast song. And I was like, man, what if we turned Awestruck Revival? That song I wrote when I was 17. I was like, I need to think about this though. So I met with my mentor at the time, and I was just kind of telling him about a little bit of the crisis I was going through. A lot of it was just like, the overarching questions that everyone has. Why do bad things happen to great people? Why do incredible people who hear the voice of the Lord all of a sudden just don't, and they say it never happened, kind of thing. Just all these overarching questions. And he said, what do you believe? What's the most simple thing you believe? Childish, if you will, like, without it. And I was just like, I believe that. He's like, do you believe that God is real? I'm like, yeah, I've never questioned that. He's like, okay, so you're questioning the stuff up here, but this. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what's the most simple thing you know about that belief? Okay, God is real and he loves me. He's like, okay, whenever you think about the stuff up here for like the next like 2 weeks, whenever you start freaking out about it, you need to think about this part and be like, I will come back to this. So not necessarily like a spiritual bypassing, but I recognize my confusion up here. I won't let the confusion up here change the foundation. The foundation is steady. Up here is shaky. It's freaking out. There's a tornado, but there's a reason why you're in the basement during tornadoes. It's because the foundation's a lot firmer than the roof. And so I just started thinking about that, and I was like, man, my whole life I have lived that every time I'm happy, I eventually get hit by this reality of, I know I'm happy now. It probably won't last. Every relationship I was in, it's great now. It's going to suck when it's not as fun. Every friendship I'm in, this is awesome, but one of us is going to move away. It's just the pessimist in me, and it's there. And I think in a lot of people, it's there. For me, it's been pretty dense, and it's still there. But I just kind of made this decision. I was like, I want to hope a little bit. And so I changed the lyrics to Awestruck Revival Ain't No Youthful Heart's Fray, because ain't is way more Mike Main's Midwest like kind of thing. And then there's If Your Soul's on Fire, Don't Doubt It Will Stay. And that kind of became my personal song. I'd sing over myself every time I felt joy. I wouldn't feel ashamed of feeling the spiritual joy because I had a spiritual, like, serious low, like, that whole summer where I was like, is God real? Kind of, not really asking that question, but more of just like I don't know where I stand with Christians and Christianity and God and stuff like that. I just kind of started, diving into, just diving into this thing where I would just sing over myself, Awestruck revival, youthful hearts, for if your soul's on fire, don't doubt it will stay. And I just it kind of became my life. It's like, I'm allowed to feel joy and I'm allowed to feel pain, and they can coexist. That's what Awestruck revival is, man.
Man,
that's
what so cool.
Is you can be a kid without thinking, oh, I have to grow up someday. Gable Price and Friends. I've been dreaming of falling asleep while I'm speaking in tongues to progressive beat. I can't wait for the promised land, standing on the beach, my friends and my foes and the sand in my feet. I've been dreaming of falling asleep while I'm speaking in tongues to progressive beat. I can't wait for the promised land, standing on the beach with my friends and my foes. Child. Awestruck revival. Ain't no youthful heart afraid. If your soul is on fire, don't doubt it will stay. Awestruck revival. Ain't no youthful heart afraid. If your soul is on fire, don't doubt it will stay.
Man, I love that story that it started out as like a pessimist negative song and then it flipped and you turned it into the positive. It's so cool. We gotta keep moving because you don't have a lot of time. I'd love to just stay here for so long, but I can't. Another song that I found really interesting and the concept was cool, where I listened to it, was like, wow, like this is a concept I've never really thought about, is 10% of my heart. And the interesting thing about I'm tired of tithing my heart, where we as Christians and followers of Jesus so often only offer God like 10% of who we are or what we're doing, and in that song wrestling with that kind of thing. And it's another one where I love the bridge.
I'm a bridge guy for sure.
Yeah, I'm a bridge guy. It says the perfect polished pastor cannot save you. Your Myers and your Briggs won't buy your sins. You can break the alabaster on a podcast, deconstruct the light till none can be let in. Dude, that is killer. I want to ask you about this song to dive into it. What's going on? Like, what is this whole idea of 10% of my heart for those who haven't heard it yet? And what inspired this thing to come out of you?
I wrote that in the summer. So when I started it when I was in the summer. A lot of times I'll start a song and finish it when I know the resolve of the feeling, but write it from not a resolving light. Like a lot of times what people will do is especially Christian music, they'll just like write this song like life is hard, it sucks, but God, I'm like, no, it doesn't always have to resolve, because sometimes these feelings don't resolve. Like, like sometimes you just feel pain and it just stays at that, doesn't always have to change. So, but a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start a song then, and then when I get back around to it, I'll already be doing a little bit better, not to change the subject of the end of the song, but to have a different light for the next verse, or have a different light for the bridge. So in this case, I wrote the chorus. I was like, oh man, I was on a big Paramore kick. The song could easily be put on the After Laughter album. I don't know if that's what it's called, but yeah, After Laughter, and it would do fine because of the 10% of my heart. Yeah, dude, I just started writing that song, and it was a similar thing. I had written a song that was a little bit more, it was a little brutal. It was just like, I was just going to write a song called, it was going to tag the hymn, the I Surrender All, but it was going to be like, very much like, I can shout your name from a giant stage and deny you in the streets. My question marks may break your heart, but I grieve you just the same. Just like and it was going to be like, I've tithed my heart and given you the scraps kind of thing. It's just like this realization of just like, man, I know better, and I'm still choosing the other thing. I know what it means to give almost everything, but right now I'm consciously deciding to just do what's required. Yeah. And I'm not saying this song has never been like you should give more to your church, like financially. It's not that. It's more of just like it's just taking the concept in a new light of like, your heart. And so when it came to the bridge, I had written that when, I had done all the stuff. Like I love self-help books. Donald Miller's like my favorite author, and Blue Like Jazz is like a total, self-help book and stuff like that. And I love podcasts. I listen to the Bridgetown audio podcast all the time with John Mark Comer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of it is just speaking to me, where it's like, there's all these things that can give you this sense of fulfillment, but the Great Commission isn't a worship set, and podcasts and reading aren't conversation with Jesus. They're conversation with someone who's had conversation with Jesus. And a lot of times we can get spoon-fed knowledge of people's encounters with God that we never desire one for ourselves, So what that song was basically is just like, you can do all the stuff that, you see all these, like you can do all the stuff. You can listen to a podcast. You can constantly have worship music playing on your speakers, but if you don't know Jesus, what do you got, kind of thing. And you might know him, but like, there's nothing that replaces, getting down and dirty, like with just like getting into the word or spending time and just letting yourself be quiet and not let someone else's revelation, which I love, for the record, I love other people's revelation, but like just letting revelation, you can just let it pour over you, and you never did any digging. And so when the rubber meets the road, your tire pops, kind of thing. And all of a sudden other people's revival wasn't your own. And so that's what that song was about. A lot of it was just speaking to me. A lot of our songs are that. So like with our newer stuff, sometimes it's like, if it doesn't hit as hard, it means I'm probably doing all right. But yeah, that's 10%, man.
Fractioned my whole heart and giving you the crumbs left on the corner table of my busy schedule. The daisies smell so nice, but the pollen hurts my eyes. My friend, locking eyes with harsh reminders, repent. My tongue is tied while my heart's on fire. Treated love like a recipe. Follow you when you're feeding me, but I won't fraction my heart. Good God, I pierced your side. 'Cause I don't guard my eyes. 10% of mine. 10% of my heart. I'm tired of tithing my heart. Hello, here's my heart and my spare time. No split eyes, no other gods to idolize. I've treated life like my masterpiece. My love for you was a casualty, but I won't fraction my heart again. Hey, I'm a broken cup spilling out. I'ma drink the river till I start to drown. I'm never gonna fraction my heart again. I felt the touch of eternity. It drained the lake of uncertainty, and I won't fraction my heart again. Good God, I pierced your side. 'Cause I don't guard my eyes. 10% of mine. 10% of my heart. The perfect polished pastor cannot save you. Your Myers or your Briggs won't buy your sins. You can break the alabaster on a podcast. Deconstruct the light till none can be let in. And self-discovery can only get you so far, baby. You're heaven sent and only home will set you free. But there's a Middle Eastern man with holes inside his hands, and he's out to get you. 10% of my 10% of my heart. 10% of my heart. 10% of my heart. 10% of my heart. I'm tired of tithing my heart.
Oh, that's so good. And I think another song that kind of highlights this for me that I was also surprised by, because I'm usually like a faster song kind of guy. But when I was watching this live show, it just kind of hit, and the lyrics of this one and the rawness of it really resonated. And that's the song Repentance, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I love the lyrics. I built my kingdom, it collapsed at my feet. I nurtured my idols and they betrayed me. And then I saw you standing on my prodigal street saying, I love you. I just think, oh, that's such a cool image. And it's such a true image of like, we as followers of Jesus so often like the wording of nurturing our idols, and like we actually feed into them and think that somehow they're going to bring this joy or thing we're missing, and then we find that it doesn't, and that God is there on a prodigal street saying, I love you. Can you just dive into that song? What brought that one out of you? And
A lot of sinning. I'm just kidding.
and what was the thing you were hoping resonated with people with that one?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I think what comes to mind is like a lot of times when you see a prominent spiritual figure or even just a figure in public go through like an extramarital affair. So let's say that of like you see them trying to protect the identity of the person that they were cheating with, or you see them working harder to maintain the dignity of the person they were cheating with than the person they were cheating on. Of their protection is more, that's what nurturing your idols means to me. And I think a lot of times I just protect, the things that are ultimately harmful, like they're prioritized even, it's a priority of just like wasting time. And I don't think wasting time or rest is sinful in any means, shape, or form. I think that I'm a lot of times will prioritize everything except for, growth and spiritual growth. But Repentance was just a song of just like, I don't want to constantly be struggling. Also, I bet, do those beeps come through your?
I hear them, yeah, but they're not a big deal.
It's so funny. It's because I'm running through my interface and I get work notifications on here. So every time you hear, it just means that it's another thing that I am gonna have to fix later. I'm just kidding. Yeah, man. Basically, Repentance is just me telling the Lord, I don't want to. I want my idols. I want those things, but like, I want to keep building a world. But when it comes down to it, I'd just rather be home. Like if I had a beautiful, beautiful career in life and stuff like that, but I didn't have a family who loved me, I think that I just want to come home. It's just the feeling of just being held by your dad or your mom after you've been home away for a long time. I think I've felt that for a solid year. Like I just want to come home, and like I can become this popular guy, and write these songs and all these things, but if I'm forgetting the main thing and I'm still longing for that, I just want to come home. Like those things are great, but they're gonna fade, and Gable Price and Friends isn't gonna be here in 50 years. But the Lord will, and the people I care about will be here. And I think that if we kind of build our own home, then we're coming home to our own ideals and coming home to a world we build. And if there's not room for a companion or a father, I just think that for me it's just not worth it. And it probably will feel worth it for a really long time. And I'm sure there are ways in my life now that I'm not making room, but when it comes down to it, man, I just don't think it's worth it.
You can move the stars, can't budge the Milky Way. When the lights are gone and my friends move on, you love me. I built my kingdom high, a Babel of modern day. I lost the throne I built on my own. You love me just the same. This is my repentance. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm coming home. This is my repentance. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm coming home. Ooh. fate betrayed me. I saw you standing on my prodigal street, mouthing I love you, my boy. When all the stars all fade on my golden road, and my income fails to carry me home, I see you standing with your finest robe, singing I love you. Oh, when every idol fails to comfort me, and my own skin and bones is stripped off of me, I'm gonna look at the holder of eternity and scream I love you. Oh, this is my repentance. I'm sorry. I love you, and I'm coming home. Oh, this is my repentance. I'm sorry. I love you, I'm coming home. This is my repentance. I'm sorry. I love you, I'm coming home.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why I resonate with that song too, is I have the same feeling of like, man, like I'm doing something that's not necessarily sinful, but I know that I'm prioritizing this, and so it's becoming that of the like I do resonate with the like wasted time. It's so easy to like do other things and then not prioritize the things that should be prioritized, and so I really resonate with that. I want to talk about Midway Drive. The video I found hilarious, where I was like, "What is this?" But Midway Drive is one of those songs that, funny enough, I feel like if you jump on the highway and you turn it on, that it's like a perfect cruise song. And I love the lyrics: "Storm my gates, conquer my kingdom. Everything fades if it's not sustained by you." And this is one of those songs where it's like, this is the less worshipful one, I would say, but it's still entrenched in there, and it's honestly a jam. And so I wanted to ask you, like, what is this Midway Drive? What are you talking about? What is going on in this song?
Um, yeah, no, it was a fun music video, man. That was fun. It was the day before everything shut down, or the week before or something. All I know is we flew our video people home, and then like a couple days later, everything closed down. Dude, Midway Drive. Midway Drive is a street in Redding, California that I lived on. I will not street, a drive that I lived on in Redding. I lived in my van in the backyard of a house of 5 girls. And they were so great. And it was like they had a dog. And I moved there post existential crisis. It was the place I lived at my last year of ministry school. And I was about two weeks in. It was a great situation. I could come in and work during the day in the house and not the van. I could be around people who really cared about me, and I could hold a dog all the time. Flynn, the dog there, is the most cuddly dog ever. So it was just this beautiful situation. I could play NBA 2K on the PlayStation there, and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks in, where I'm finally like, I feel like I'm getting my feet under me, we got a text from the landlord's like, "Hey, I don't know who this van guy is, but he can't live in there."
Oh man.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was like, felt like the entire rug was swept out from under me, of just this, of the thing that I felt like was finally it. And so I'm sitting there and we're trying to figure out a solution. I'm just like, hey, I just need some time. And I'm just written, and I feel like you're finding me on Midway Drive, collapsing me on top of me, restructure my eyes won't. So just like it was this feeling of like the rug getting swept out from me once again, of just like kind of this falling apart to fall into something. Like I need to fall into something, conquer my kingdom. If it's something I'm building, that's bigger than that, like that I think is bigger than you in my life, then, you know, take it down. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna suck. Maybe security is the thing that I need. Maybe I need all security away to realize I can't do it on my own. That was basically what Midway Drive was. If the landlord's listening to this, I'm so sorry. I never left. I stayed the whole year. I just happened to move the van every time you drove by. Yeah, dude, Midway Drive was the most beautiful season of my life, man. It was cool. And I was there, and I found a lot of great people, and just got basically nurtured by 5 super loving people while I just kind of figured it out. And they were really good to me, and they were at my concert the other night, and we did an encore of Midway Drive, and I looked over to them, I'm like, getting the point, and they're all just like, Gable, like that's what they were the whole year, was just like, Gable, like super cheering me on. And it was really cool. It was just a really cool season where I just really needed that. It was like I missed my family enough that they really stepped in to just be like my biggest fans during the year, that like I just really needed people to be rooting for me. Man,
that's so cool. I will never hear that song the same way again, knowing that context. That's such a cool story.
And then we drove in the music video. That whole thing was shot on Midway Drive.
Yeah, it all makes so much sense now.
Yeah, so we were the door I knock on and give the cat to the person. That was my housemate. That was Midway Drive that we knocked on the door at. You know, when I was in the tree with the cat, that was in the front yard at Midway Drive, at our house there. When we're doing the dance, it's all going up and down Midway Drive, and the neighbors were so mad. They were so mad. There was this lady that was stuck behind it, because what we would do is we do an entire rundown, and then we'd come back and we do it again from a different angle. But whenever a car would drive down the street, it wasn't a busy street, we would just, you know, be like, hey, just 1 second, just give me 1 second, we're gonna finish this take. And there was this lady behind us just honking and honking.
Oh man.
And afterwards we pass and we're like, thank you. And she looks at our camera guy and she goes, you are not welcome. This is stupid. And then she pulls into the house next to the person across the street from me, 1 house away from me, just basically a diagonal shot. So every time I saw her, I'd be like, hi. And we built like this whole world around her. We called her, I can't remember what we called her, but we made this joke that she was mad because she was trying to get home so she could drink her sangria and watch Grey's Anatomy, and just like built up this whole thing about how her son Kyle was going to be waiting at the door with her sangria, and she paid him in Kohl's cash. Like it was just this whole like just thing that just got so out of hand. And that was what Midway Drive was, man. It was just this constant super fun time. Anyways,
take a rib, take my heart with you. Shaky breath, tear my lungs in two. Won't you flood my world and fill the gaps with you? Take your time, I'm a patient man. I'm no dandelion, I'm a wish in a hand. I will lean upon the side of land. Flood my shore and sink my ships, till all my land is covered up by you. Storm my gates, conquer my kingdom. Everything fades if it's not sustained by you. And I feel like you're finding me on Midway Drive, collapsing me on top of me, restructure my eyes, won't you flood my world and fill the gaps with you. And I met the Holy Ghost on the interstate, we were pushing 105 on the highway of faith. Won't you flood my world and fill my heart with you. Shaky breath, tear my lungs in two. Won't you flood my world and fill the gaps with you?
Man, that's awesome. Last song I want to dive into is your most recent single, not including all the different kind of reimaginings and live EPs you've come out with. But this song came out in 2020, and personally to me, I was like, this is the perfect song for 2020, because we were in, like, the whole world just blew up, and especially in the West, like the fighting and the high amounts of opinions and really demonizing people for not agreeing with us was insane. And so this song comes out, and I was just like, yes, like this is what we need to hear, especially in the church, because I just saw it everywhere. It's like, if you're not open, you're supporting Satan. If you are if you're closed, then you're
giving into fear.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh my gosh, can we just
shut up?
Yeah. And so this song, I loved it, and I, especially as someone who at that season 2 was wrestling with my theology and what I believed, and it's hilarious because at the time I was really wrestling with the Calvinist Arminian debate, and I was just sitting there, and I would like stay up at night just being like, I see some verses in the Bible that are Calvinist. I see some verses that are Arminian, where it's like, we do have free will, but there is predestination. I don't get how any of it works. And then this song comes out, and so I love that line. Maybe we'll get to heaven and realize we're both wrong. We're always slapping wrists over why we all exist. Everyone's Arminian and everyone's a Calvinist. But I just love that whole concept of you're my country. And I think that's still now today, like, it hasn't gone away. And I think it's been there the whole time. It just, COVID made it just more obvious of the whole problem with Christians, especially associating the kingdom where we lay our heads down at night with the kingdom of God, and we need to recognize that God's our country, and we don't need to. And so I just want to dive into that song with you as we wrap up. Like, what inspired that song for you, and what is kind of the message that you're hoping that people can hear when they listen to that song?
Mostly rage again. Mostly rage. Dude, 2020 was crazy because for one, everything's shut down. And there's so many different opinions. If you wear a mask, you're a sheep, and if you don't, you're a dingus, kind of thing. Yep. Like all this stuff. But what it really was, we intentionally released it 7 days before the U.S. presidential election.
Because,
dude, people freaking sucked. All of that. All of election season, like, I've never been more embarrassed to be a Christian, honestly. Not embarrassed of God, not ashamed of him, but embarrassed of the people I'm associated with, man. Like, they suck. Like, and it was just, it was crazy. Cause, like, we go through this song and everyone's just like, is this a song for the Republicans or for the Democrats? I was like, it's for the people who need to know an answer. Like, it's like all the people who need to blame someone. Just shut up and be humble. But no, basically I started writing the song because not nearly as much about COVID. And it can totally mean that to other people, because not everyone was in the US. Like, obviously for you're in Canada and stuff like that. But so like COVID, it was a big part of it. There was a lot of, I think that probably got tensions high, and then election season comes along, and everyone was their own higher truth. Like, I would look at, like, and I even caught myself doing it, where I would see someone post a certain post and I'd just be like, oh man, they were really important to me at one point. It's a shame. And I'm like, no, these people are still people, and they still carry what they carry regardless of who they vote for. But there wasn't that belief all the way around, where it was just like, it was this thing where I would see prominent spiritual leaders be like, you can't love the Lord and vote for the devil. And I'm like, that's where that lyric of like, sorry about the ding. They're like, you can't love the Lord and vote for the devil. And I'm just like, so you're implying that the Lord is a president. Like, is so can you tell God from a man-made king? Can you tell God from who's in charge? Like, it's this thing where, like, you'd see these things of like, God is, raising up, Joe Biden for this. God is signing these decrees with Donald Trump. And I'm like,
yeah,
I genuinely think that you guys are delusional of like these images of like, oh my God, the images of just the horrible Photoshop photos of the Lord like directing president's hands.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, I believe that the Lord can move through anyone, but in comment sections, I was starting to believe like, I don't think he can move through that person, because people were just wild, man. But it was like it was a song of where I was just like, okay, there are heavily anointed, influential people in my life who think very different things from me. And there are heavily anointed people who think the same way as me. And so it was just a song of like, I can't disqualify someone's influence from my life based on their belief in this. If someone was like, I prefer this person's policies and I really don't like this policy of this other person, I'm like, great, that's awesome. That's an opinion. Now to wave a spiritual meaning over something, to be like, this is God's choice. And I'm like, no, it's your choice. And you've made God in your own image. Congratulations. It was just crazy because I'm not really, full disclosure, I'm not really heavily on either side. I think I've definitely got beliefs that kind of sit me right in the middle. And maybe that's just, I would say it's passive, like being like a pacifist, but I'm really not. I got into a lot of fights with my brothers growing up, it was just one of those things where like election season comes around and I'm like, this is embarrassing. Like, this is just genuinely. And it was one of those things that I was really glad that I had rebuilt this foundation back last year, because my frustrations with Christians during COVID and during election season would have really thrown off this. Like, because I was even like shaken down here based on all of that, where I'm like, if that person heard God say this and they were wrong, maybe that means that God didn't say that to him. But wait, they spoke this big thing over my life. Maybe they were making that up too, based on what they thought I wanted to hear. And it just gets really squirrely really quick. And it's just like, when it comes down to it, we're a human messenger of a holy thing. So it's like, where a lot of times we just let our humanness get involved. I'm glad that people don't get, beaten by stones when they get it wrong now. But I think during election season, a little bit more fear of God would have been a little bit nice. So that's what You Are My Country was about. I wrote it with Christine, who, had been really important in walking through, a lot of my own personal gripes over the years, so it's been, it was a good song. I'm proud of it. I'm interested to see the life that it continues to have even after the election, because like you said, it meant something completely different to you than it originally meant to me. And it's going to mean something different to someone in a year than it's going to mean to us today. So that's one of those songs that I'm just like, I can't wait to see what it does.
Maybe we will get to heaven and realize we were both wrong. Who can throw the sharpest stone, build the biggest throne? Is there really a winner if we both have broken bones? Maybe we will get to heaven and realize we were both wrong. We're all just slapping wrists over why we all exist. Everyone's Arminian and everyone's a Calvinist. Can we tell God from a man-made king? Can we tell love from a promised ring? Can we tell the kingdom from the kingdom where we lay our head down at night? You are my country.
Maybe we will get to heaven and realize we were
both wrong. We were told to take a side of which evil felt more right. Will I really find a savior on the side of a party line? Maybe we will get to heaven and realize we were both wrong. We all romanticize the smack inside our eyes. Can we hear his voice in the sound of a brother's cry? Can we tell God from a man-made king? Can we tell love from a promised ring? Can we tell the kingdom from the king
Man, that's so cool. And the thing too is like I'm in Canada, and the funny thing about Canada is like we don't have a lot of stuff to talk about, so we like talking about our neighbors instead. And it was the same thing here, man, where during that season it was like either you support Satan because you like Joe Biden, or you support Satan because you like Donald Trump. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And it's still something that's around today. Like obviously it hasn't gone anywhere with
Crazy.
the trials that just happened or the storming of the Capitol, you name it, it's still present. And so I think that song is a song that I think was prophetic to a lot of people, and I think it will continue to be for many years.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
So Gable, thank you for doing this. It's been a ton of fun, honestly. Whether or not anyone even listens to this, I don't care, because I have had fun talking to you. I'm a massive fan of your guys' work. I'm super pumped for how God's using you, for how you guys are as musicians.
Likewise, man, it's really cool what you're doing.
Oh, thanks, man. I honestly just keep doing what you're doing. Keep making great music. I hope we get more stuff from you guys really soon. I'm sitting there being like, "Where's album 2? It's gonna come."
Album 2 is a ways away. I'll tell you now. It's a ways away. But there are definitely things that we're working on now. We never got to tour for Action Heart, is what we got to keep in mind. So we're like, it's got some life. It's got some, we don't want to just stop playing Not Safe because it's one of the lower streaming songs on the album. We want to tour it and see if that brings a new life to it, and stuff like that. But there's definitely stuff coming. We're working on something right now that would probably be a sooner release than an album, but not a full album. Probably like an EP or a single, after the summer or something like that. You never know. We really actually don't know. So it's not like I'm trying to be mysterious. We just don't have a timetable of it yet. But it's exciting.
I'm excited. And for those who haven't heard Not Safe, that's a shame. That's an amazing song, and I love C.S. Lewis, so I love that line of bringing in the Narnia kind of things from the Beaver. It's so good. Gable,
my Instagram DMs do not like that line. Let me tell you that.
Really? Are you serious?
What does that mean? Are you saying God's not safe? I'm like, oh my gosh, read the YouTube description. No, I'm just kidding. I've never opposed to people asking questions about my songs.
That's awesome. Gable, thank you so much for doing this, for taking time out of your workday to sit down and chat with us. It's been a ton of fun. Honestly, thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Of course, brother. Hey, you have a great day, and thanks for having me.